The polite resistance, Captain Mia Chen, stood quietly on the bridge of the Harmony's edge, watching the stars through the main viewing port. Her ship was small compared to the massive vessels other species used for exploration, but it was fast, and equipped with the best sensors humanity could build. Maya had been patrolling the outer rim of human space for 3 months now, and what she had seen troubled her deeply. The Thralix Empire was expanding again. Their gray warships appeared at the edge of star systems, like wolves circling prey. They would demand tribute from any species they encountered, and those who refused faced swift destruction. Maya had watched helplessly as the Thralix destroyed 2 peaceful trading stations belonging to the Villani Republic just last week. The aliens seemed to enjoy causing fear and suffering wherever they went. Mia's communication officer, Lieutenant James Park, looked up from his console with concern written across his face. "Captain, we're receiving another distress signal from New Haven Colony. It's the same message they've been broadcasting for 6 hours now." Maya nodded grimly. New Haven was a small human settlement on the edge of explored space. The colonists were farmers and scientists who had chosen a quiet life far from Earth's crowded cities. They had no military defenses beyond basic security. Systems designed to keep local wildlife away from their crops. If the Thralix were targeting them, the colonists stood no chance. "Put it through," Maya ordered. The voice that filled the bridge belonged to Dr. Susan Martinez, New Haven's colony. "Administrator." She sounded tired and frightened. "This is New Haven Colony, requesting immediate assistance. We have 3 Thralix warships in orbit demanding we surrender all our food supplies and scientific equipment. They've given us 4 hours to comply, or they will begin orbital bombardment. We are a peaceful settlement with no military capabilities. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help." Maya clenched her fists. This was the 7th human colony attacked by the Thralix in 2 months. Each time, the aliens demanded impossible tributes or complete surrender. Each time, Earth's government responded with diplomatic protests and requests for negotiation. Each time, the Thralix ignored human attempts at peaceful resolution. "Lieutenant Park, send a message to Earth Command," Maya said. "Inform them of the situation at New Haven and request permission to intervene." James worked quickly at his console. Within minutes, a response came back from Admiral Janet Foster at Earth Defense Command. The message was brief and frustrating. Maintain observation. Position: do not engage Thralix forces. Diplomatic solution in progress. Maya shook her head in disbelief. While diplomats on Earth exchanged polite messages with Thralix representatives, innocent people were about to die. She turned to her tactical officer, Ensign Robert Kim. "Bobby, what's our weapons status?" The young officer checked his displays. "All systems operational, Captain. We have full charges on our pulse cannons and missile pods. Our shields are at maximum strength." Mia looked back at the distant lights of New Haven Colony visible on her screen. The Harmony's Edge could probably disable the 3 Thralix ships, but her orders were clear. Earth's government believed they could solve this crisis through negotiation and peaceful means. On Earth, Ambassador David Park sat in his office reading reports from across human space. David was James Park's older brother and had spent 15 years representing humanity in galactic politics. He believed deeply in the power of diplomacy and had successfully negotiated peace treaties with 12 different alien species. But the Thralix were different from any civilization he had encountered before. The reports on his desk painted a grim picture. The Thralix Empire had attacked human settlements 17 times in the past 3 months. They had destroyed 6 colonies completely and forced 3 others to abandon their homes. Over 2,000 human civilians had been killed or displaced, and the attacks were becoming more frequent and more brutal. David's assistant, Maria Santos, entered his office carrying a secure communication tablet. "Ambassador, we have an incoming message from Thralix High Command. They're responding to your request for a meeting." David took the tablet and read the message carefully. The Thralix response was typical of their arrogant attitude toward other species. They agreed to meet with him, but only if he came to their territory alone and unarmed. They also demanded that humanity cease all military patrols in the border regions as a gesture of good faith. Despite the insulting terms, David agreed to the meeting. He believed that any chance for peace was worth the risk. 3 days later, he found himself aboard a small diplomatic shuttle, heading toward the Thralax stronghold in the Carrion Nebula. The meeting took place aboard the Thralax flagship, a massive vessel called the Iron Dominion. David was escorted through corridors filled with weapon displays and battle trophies taken from conquered worlds. The ship's design seemed intended to intimidate visitors. With sharp edges and dark lighting creating an atmosphere of menace, War Marshal Kethrix was waiting in the main conference chamber. The Thralax leader was over 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. His eyes were black and cold, and when he smiled, rows of sharp teeth were visible. He gestured for David to sit in a chair that was uncomfortably small. For a human. So, Kethrix began, his voice deep and threatening. The soft humans have finally decided to talk. Your species has become quite troublesome lately. David maintained his diplomatic composure despite the aliens' hostile attitude. War Marshal, I've come here hoping we can find a peaceful solution to the conflicts between our peoples. Humanity has no desire for war with the Thralax Empire. We simply want to protect our citizens and maintain our right to exist in peace. Kethrix laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Peace? Your species talks constantly about peace, but what you really want is to hide your weakness behind pretty words. The Thralax Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We take what we need and we destroy what opposes us. Perhaps we could establish trade agreements, David suggested. Humanity has developed advanced agricultural techniques that could benefit your people. In exchange, we could establish clear boundaries between our territories. The Thralax leader's expression darkened. We do not trade with prey animals. Your colonies produce food and resources that we require. You will surrender these settlements voluntarily, or we will take them by force. This is not a negotiation. This is your notification of our decision. David felt his patience beginning to wear thin, but he kept his voice calm and professional. War Marshal, I must protest. The colonies you're demanding are home to hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. These are peaceful communities that pose no threat to your empire. Exactly, Kethrix replied with cruel satisfaction. Weak, defenseless settlements that will offer no resistance. Your military is pathetic, your weapons are primitive, and your leaders are cowards who send diplomats instead of soldiers. The galaxy has watched humans for decades, and all we see is a species that talks endlessly but never fights. The War Marshal stood up and activated a holographic display showing human colonies throughout the region. Red markers indicated settlements. The Thralax had already attacked, while yellow markers showed their future targets. This is your warning, human diplomat. We will take every colony marked on this display within the next 6 months. If you attempt to interfere, we will accelerate our schedule and begin targeting your more populated worlds. Your species has proven itself incapable of meaningful resistance. David stood up as well, his diplomatic training the only thing keeping his anger in check. War Marshal, you are making a serious mistake. Humanity values peace and tries to resolve conflicts through dialogue, but that doesn't mean we are incapable of defending ourselves. Kethrix laughed again. Defend yourselves? With what? We have studied your military capabilities. Your ships are small and lightly armed. Your soldiers have no real combat experience. Your weapons technology is centuries behind ours. You have never fought a real war because you are too weak to threaten anyone. We choose not to fight because we believe there are better ways to solve problems, David replied firmly. But if you continue these unprovoked attacks on our people, you may discover that humanity is not as helpless as you believe. The Thralax War Marshal's 4 eyes glittered with amusement. Is that a threat, little diplomat? Are you finally going to show us this hidden strength you claim to possess? David looked directly into Kethrix's eyes and spoke with quiet intensity. War Marshal, Consider this humanity's final diplomatic warning. Stop attacking our colonies. Cease your expansion into human space. Agree to establish peaceful borders between our civilizations. This is your last chance to avoid discovering what humans are capable of when we stop being polite. Kethrix dismissed David's words with a wave of his hand. Your threats mean nothing. Return to your home world and tell your leaders that the Thralax Empire will take what it wants. If humanity wishes to survive, you will submit to our authority and accept your place as our servants. The meeting ended with no agreement and no hope for peaceful resolution. As David's shuttle departed the Thralax flagship, he sent a coded message to Earth Command using a secure channel. The message was brief, but carried enormous significance. Diplomatic solution impossible. Recommend Protocol 7 activation. Back. On the Harmony's edge, Captain Maya Chen received new orders from Earth Command. The tone of the message was different from previous communications. There was no mention of diplomatic solutions or peaceful negotiations. Instead, the orders were direct and unambiguous. Proceed to New Haven Colony. Render all necessary assistance to civilians. Use of force authorized if required for defensive purposes. Maya smiled grimly as she read the message. Finally, Earth's government was allowing its military to act. She turned to her crew and spoke with quiet determination. All hands, battle stations. We're going to help the people of New Haven Colony, and if the Thralax want to fight, we'll give them one they won't forget. The Harmony's Edge changed course toward New Haven, its engines glowing brighter as Maya pushed the ship to maximum speed. Behind them, across human space, other ships were receiving similar orders. The age of polite diplomacy was ending, and the Thralax Empire was about to learn why humanity had survived and thrived in a dangerous galaxy. The message David Park had sent to Earth Command contained a simple code that activated systems, and protocols the Thralax had never suspected existed. For decades, humanity had maintained the appearance of a peaceful, lightly armed species interested only in exploration and trade. This carefully crafted image had allowed them to spread throughout the galaxy without being seen as a threat by aggressive civilizations like the Thralax Empire. But appearances, as the Thralax were about to discover, could be very deceiving. Indeed, the courtesy Answer Marshal Kethrix stood on the bridge of the Iron Dominion, watching with satisfaction as his fleet prepared for the largest assault in Thralax history. 300 warships had gathered in the Carrion Nebula, representing the full military might of his empire. The target was the human home system itself. If the humans would not surrender their colonies willingly, Kethrix would destroy their capital world and end their resistance forever. War Marshal, his intelligence officer, reported, "Our scouts confirm the human home system has minimal defenses. We detect approximately 50 ships in Earth orbit, mostly small patrol vessels and cargo transports. Their largest military installation appears to be a space station near their moon." Kethrix's 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation. The humans had proven more stubborn than expected, but they were still pathetically weak after he destroyed Earth. The remaining human colonies would surrender without resistance. The Thralax Empire would gain control of dozens of resource-rich worlds, and Kethrix would be remembered as the greatest conqueror in his species' history. "Begin the assault," he commanded. "Show these humans what happens when they defy the Thralax Empire." The massive fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward Earth at maximum speed. Kethrix expected the battle to last less than an hour. What he found waiting for him would shatter everything he thought he knew about humanity, Captain. Mia Chen had arrived at New Haven Colony just as the Thralax ultimatum expired. The 3 enemy warships in orbit were preparing to begin their bombardment when the Harmony's Edge dropped out of hyperspace. Maya's tactical officer immediately began scanning the Thralax vessels, and what he found surprised him. "Captain, these ships are using outdated shield technology and basic plasma weapons. Our tactical systems are showing multiple vulnerabilities in their defensive arrays." Maya studied the tactical display with growing confidence. How outdated. Are we talking, Bobby? At least 50 years behind our current technology. Ma'am. Their weapons are powerful but crude, and their shields have several frequency weaknesses we can exploit. Miai opened a communication channel to the lead Thralic ship. The alien commander who appeared on her screen looked exactly like the species. Profiles in her database, tall, gray-skinned, and arrogant. Human vessel, the Thralix commander snarled. You are interfering with an official operation of the Thralix Empire. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earthship Harmony's Edge, Maya replied calmly. You are threatening innocent civilians in violation of interstellar law. I order you to withdraw from this system immediately. The Thralix commander laughed harshly. You order us? One small human ship against 3 Thralix warships? Your species' arrogance is exceeded only by your stupidity. Maya's expression remained calm, but her voice carried a subtle warning. Commander, I'm giving you one chance to leave peacefully. This is your final warning. Then die, foolish human. The Thralix ships opened fire simultaneously, sending waves of plasma energy toward the Harmony's Edge. Maya's ship absorbed the attack with ease, its adaptive shields automatically adjusting to counter the enemy weapons. Before the Thralix could fire again, Maya's tactical officer had targeted all 3 ships with precision strikes. The human weapons were unlike anything the Thralix had ever encountered. Instead of crude energy beams or explosive missiles, the Harmony's Edge fired focused pulses that seemed to phase through the enemy shields entirely. The first Thralix ship lost all power within seconds. The second ship's weapons exploded internally, crippling the vessel. The third ship tried to flee but found its engines disabled by another impossible human weapon. Within 5 minutes of the battle's start, all 3 Thralix warships were floating helpless in space, their crews alive but their ships completely disabled. Miai opened another communication channel to the lead vessel. Commander, this is your second final warning. Leave this system and never return. Tell your leaders that humanity is not as defenseless as we appear. The stunned Thralix commander could barely speak. How is this possible? Your weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. We're full of surprises, Mia replied. Now leave. Similar scenes were playing out across human space. Wherever Thralix forces had threatened human colonies, they suddenly found themselves facing opposition they couldn't understand or defeat. Human ships that should have been easy targets were destroying entire Thralix squadrons without taking damage. Weapons that appeared primitive were cutting through advanced alien defenses like they didn't exist on Earth. General Sarah Thompson was coordinating humanity's response from a command center deep beneath the planet's surface. Sarah had been planning for this day for over 20 years. As head of the Classified Human Defense Initiative, she had overseen the development of weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter aggressive alien civilizations. General, her communications officer announced, we have confirmation from all sectors. Thralix forces are withdrawing from human space. Their attacks have been completely repelled with minimal human casualties. Sarah nodded with satisfaction, but she knew the real test was yet to come. Intelligence reports indicated that the Thralix were preparing a massive assault on Earth itself. War Marshal Kethrix was gathering every ship in his empire for one final, overwhelming attack. Activate Phase 2, Sarah ordered. It's time to show them what we've really been building out here. Across the solar system, objects that had been disguised as asteroids, space debris, and abandoned satellites suddenly came to life. Hidden weapons, platforms revealed themselves in Earth's orbit, around the moon, and throughout the asteroid belt. Defense stations that had been camouflaged for decades began powering up weapons systems that represented the absolute peak of human military technology. Dr. Alex Rivera was monitoring the activation sequence from his laboratory on Luna Base. Alex had spent his entire career developing the theoretical technologies that made humanity's hidden arsenal possible. His work on quantum phase weapons, adaptive defense systems, and stealth technology had remained classified for 30 years. Today, for the first time, his creations would be tested in actual combat. Asterisk. General Thompson, Alex reported through a secure channel. All defensive systems are online. The quantum disruption field is ready for activation, and our phase shift platforms are fully operational. Sarah smiled grimly. Excellent work, Alex. How long until the Thralex fleet arrives? Our deep space sensors detect them entering the outer system now. 300 ships in a standard attack formation. They have no idea what they're flying. War Marshal Kethrix was indeed confident as his massive fleet approached Earth. His sensors showed exactly what he expected. A few dozen small human ships and some basic orbital installations. The humans had concentrated their pathetic forces around their home world for a final, desperate stand. It would make destroying them even easier. Prepare for final assault, Kethrix commanded. Target their military installations first, then their major cities. Leave enough infrastructure intact to be useful, but make sure they understand the price of defying us. The Thralex fleet spread out across space, surrounding Earth in a formation designed to prevent any human ships from escaping. Kethrix savored the moment. In a few minutes, he would begin the bombardment that would end human resistance forever. That's when the impossible happened. Space around the Thralex fleet suddenly erupted with weapons fire from directions that should have been empty vacuum. Hundreds of hidden platforms revealed themselves, emerging from stealth fields that had made them completely invisible to Thralex sensors. The weapons they fired were beyond anything Kethrix had ever seen. Quantum phase cannons punched through Thralex shields as if they didn't exist. Adaptive missiles changed their attack patterns in real time, making them impossible to intercept. Reality distortion fields caused entire sections of Thralex ships to simply cease existing at a molecular level. What is this? Kethrix screamed as his flagship shook from multiple impacts. Where are these weapons coming from? His science officer was frantically trying to make sense of the sensor readings. War Marshal, we're detecting energy signatures. That shouldn't be possible. These humans are using technology that violates several known laws of physics. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. 300 Thralex warships, the pride of their empire, were reduced to floating scrap metal by weapons they couldn't see, understand, or counter. Not a single human defensive platform was destroyed, and the small patrol ships around Earth never fired a shot. General Sarah Thompson watched the results from her command center with professional satisfaction. The Thralex Empire's military power had been completely eliminated without a single human casualty. Now came the moment she had been preparing for even longer than the weapons. Ambassador David Park stood in the main communication center, ready to deliver humanity's message. To the galaxy, this would be broadcast on all known channels, ensuring that every spacefaring civilization would hear Earth's words. This is Ambassador David Park. Speaking on behalf of the United Earth government and the human species, David began, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. For the past 73 years, humanity has maintained peaceful relations with our galactic neighbors. We have chosen diplomacy over conflict, negotiation over conquest, and cooperation over domination. The broadcast continued as rescue ships moved through the debris field that had once been the Thralex fleet. Human medical teams were already working to save the survivors, demonstrating the same compassion that had defined human behavior throughout their contact with alien civilizations. The Thralex Empire mistook our preference for peace as a sign of weakness, David continued. They attacked our colonies, killed our citizens, and threatened our home world. We gave them numerous opportunities to choose a different path. They refused every offer of peaceful resolution. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, War Marshal Kethrix listened to the human transmission with growing horror. He had always believed that military strength was the only measure of a species' worth. The idea that the humans had been deliberately restraining themselves was almost incomprehensible. Today, the Thralex Empire has learned that humanity's commitment to Peace should never be confused with inability to wage war, David announced. We have the technology and the capability to destroy any threat to our people, but we choose not to use that power except in defense of innocent lives. The broadcast showed images of human rescue teams pulling Thralic survivors from their destroyed ships. Despite everything the aliens had done, humans were risking their own lives to save their former enemies. The Thralic's military has been completely neutralized, David continued. Their ability to threaten other species has been permanently removed. However, we are not conquerors. We do not seek to rule over other civilizations or impose our will on alien worlds. War Marshal Kethrix found himself rescued by a human medical team and brought aboard a human hospital ship. The doctor treating his injuries was professional and compassionate, showing no hatred or desire for revenge despite the thousands of humans the Thralics had killed. The Thralics people will be allowed to rebuild their civilization, David announced, but they will do so as a peaceful member of the galactic community. Their government will be restructured to prevent future aggression, and they will make reparations to the species they have harmed. The message concluded with a statement that sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Let this serve as notice to any civilization that might consider following the Thralics' example. Humanity prefers peace, but we are prepared for war. We hope for cooperation, but we are ready for conflict. We extend our hand in friendship to all species, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves and our allies against those who choose violence over reason. As David's broadcast ended, alien governments across the galaxy were frantically reassessing their intelligence about human capabilities. The species they had dismissed as weak and technologically primitive had just demonstrated military power. Beyond anything previously seen, Captain Maya Chen received new orders as she patrolled the former Thralic's border regions. Human ships were establishing monitoring stations throughout the area, ensuring that no remnants of the alien military could threaten other species. The job would take months, but Maya was confident her people could handle it. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. They had discovered that the quiet, diplomatic species from the small blue planet possessed both the wisdom to choose peace and the strength to enforce it when necessary. War Marshal Kethrix, recovering in a human medical facility, found himself struggling to understand how his mighty empire had been defeated so completely. His doctor, Dr. Elizabeth Park, James's sister and David's cousin, checked his treatment progress with the same care she would show to any patient. How? Kethrix asked weakly. How did you hide such power for so long? Dr. Park looked at him with something that might have been pity. We didn't hide it, Marshal. We just chose not to use it. There's a difference between being unable to fight and preferring not to. As Kethrix healed, he would have time to think about those words. His empire was gone, his military was destroyed, and his people would need to learn how to live peacefully with their neighbors. For the first time in his life, he began to understand that true strength might not come from the ability to destroy others, but from the wisdom to choose when that destruction was truly necessary. Humanity had passed its first major test in galactic politics. They had proven that a species could be both peaceful and powerful, both diplomatic and deadly. The galaxy would never underestimate them again, and perhaps with human guidance, it might become a more peaceful place for all species to share. Asterisk.